I'm pretty sure Mr. Surin hates every single one of us. He's standing at the front of AP English with his arms crossed, watching us file in like we're criminals entering a courtroom, and I swear his face hasn't moved in the 3 weeks since school started. No smile, no warmth, just this blank, professional mask that makes me feel like I'm bothering him by existing. Laptop's closed, he says before anyone's even sat down. Phone's in the bin. I drop into my seat next to Marissa, and she rolls her eyes at me. We've been best friends since freshman year, and we've had some strict teachers before, but this guy is on another level. He doesn't do the getting to know you thing, doesn't ask about our weekends, doesn't joke around, just curriculum, like we're machines designed to process literature instead of actual 17-year-olds who are drowning in college applications and trying to survive senior year. Today we're starting your semester project, Soren says, and I watch him pull up a slide that makes my stomach drop. It's worth 40% of your grade. 40%. I glance at Marissa, and her mouth is literally hanging open. You'll be analyzing a novel of your choice through a sociological lens, he continues, and his voice is so monotone I want to scream. 15 pages minimum. 3 scholarly sources. Presentation component. Rough draft due in 2 weeks. Someone behind me, Colton probably, lets out this frustrated sigh that I 100% feel in my soul. This is senior year, I mutter to Marissa. We're supposed to be coasting. Mr. Soren doesn't believe in coasting, she whispers back. I can hear you, Soren says without even looking up from his laptop, and my face goes hot. The thing is, I'm normally good at English. I like reading. I even like writing sometimes. But there's something about the way he teaches that makes me feel like nothing I do will ever be good enough. He doesn't give feedback. He gives corrections. He doesn't encourage. He points out flaws. And he definitely doesn't seem to care that we're all stressed out of our minds trying to get into college while maintaining GPAs and doing extracurriculars and not having complete mental breakdowns. Last week I turned in what I thought was a pretty solid essay on The Great Gatsby, and he gave it back with so much red ink it looked like it was bleeding. You're capable of deeper analysis, he'd written at the top. Not good effort or nice work. Just this vague statement that felt like a criticism disguised as a compliment. After class, Marissa and I walk to our lockers together, and she's already texting in our group chat with Phoebe and Elise, calling Soren the robot teacher. I don't think he's human, Marissa says. Like, genuinely. I think he might be an AI programmed to suck the joy out of literature. I laugh, but it's the bitter kind. He's definitely never had fun in his entire life. Did you see him at the football game last week? Marissa asks. Standing by himself in the corner, not talking to anyone? So weird. I hadn't gone to the game, but the image tracks. Soren doesn't seem like the type to have friends or a life outside of school. He's always here early and leaves late. And in between, he's just this presence that makes everyone feel like they're not trying hard enough. My phone buzzes with a notification from my college application portal, and my anxiety spikes immediately. 3 applications are due next month. 3 essays still need editing. My SAT scores are good, but not great. My GPA is fine, but not perfect. And now I have this massive English project that's going to eat up all my time. You okay? Marissa asks. And I realize I've been staring at my phone with this panicked expression. Just college stuff, I say, shoving my phone in my pocket. It's fine. But it's not fine. Nothing feels fine lately. The next day in English, Soren has us working in groups to brainstorm project ideas, and I'm partnered with Colton and this quiet girl named Daphne who barely talks. So what are you guys thinking? Colton asks, spinning his pen. I'm doing Lord of the Flies because I already read it freshman year and I remember it. That's not really the point of the assignment, Daphne says softly, and Colton shrugs. The point is to survive, and I'm choosing survival. I'm about to suggest my own idea when Soren appears next to our table, like he materialized out of nowhere. I didn't even see him walking over. Colton, he says, and his voice has this edge to it. The point is critical thinking and original analysis, not regurgitating a SparkNotes summary from 4 years ago. Colton's face goes red. I wasn't going to pick something that challenges you, Soren interrupts. All of you. This is your last chance to prove you can think independently before college. Don't waste it. He walks away before any of us can respond, and Colton looks like he wants to punch a wall. See? He mutters. Complete robot, zero empathy. But I'm watching Soren move to the next group, and there's something about the way he's holding himself, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, that seems less like coldness and more like tension, like he's forcing himself to maintain this strict persona, even though it's exhausting. Or maybe I'm reading way too much into it. Ivy? Earth to Ivy? Marissa waves her hand in front of my face, and I snap back to reality. Sorry. What? I said, what book are you doing? I don't know yet, I admit. Something good. Something that won't make me want to drop out of school. Daphne laughs at that, this quiet, genuine sound that surprises me. And for a second, I forget about how much I dislike this class. After school, I'm supposed to go straight home, but I left my AP Calc textbook in my locker, and I need it for homework, so I head back inside. The building is mostly empty now, just the echo of my footsteps, and the distant sound of the janitorial staff vacuuming somewhere. I'm walking past the English wing when I hear something that makes me stop crying. Not loud, dramatic crying. Quiet, muffled, like someone trying really hard not to be heard. I freeze, unsure if I should keep walking or check if someone's okay. The sound is coming from one of the classrooms, Soren's classroom actually, and the door is slightly open. I know I should leave, mind my own business, but something makes me edge closer, just close enough to peek through the gap, and I see him. Mr. Soren sitting at his desk with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. He's crying. My perfect, robotic, emotionless teacher is crying. I step back immediately, my heart hammering. This feels private, wrong, like I've seen something I absolutely wasn't supposed to see. His phone is on the desk in front of him and I hear it buzz. He picks it up, and even from here I can hear the exhaustion in his voice when he answers. I know, I'm coming, just give me 10 minutes. A pause. No, I get it, I'm sorry, I'll be there soon. He hangs up and just sits there for a moment, completely still, before taking this long, shaky breath and standing up. He wipes his face with both hands, straightens his tie, and picks up his bag. I press myself against the wall as he walks out, locking the door behind him. He doesn't see me, doesn't even look in my direction, just walks down the hall with this rigid, controlled posture, like he's holding himself together by sheer force of will. I wait until he's gone before I move, my mind racing. Who was on the phone? Why was he crying? What happened? All this time I've been thinking he's just this cold, unfeeling teacher who doesn't care about anything except curriculum. But people who don't care about anything don't cry alone in empty classrooms. I grab my textbook from my locker and head home, but I can't stop thinking about it. The next morning, I'm looking at Soren differently. He's still strict, still formal, still makes us put our phones in the bin and refuses to give us extensions on assignments. But now when I watch him move around the classroom, I'm noticing things I didn't before. The way his hand shakes slightly when he's writing on the board, the dark circles under his eyes that suggest he's not sleeping, the way he pauses sometimes mid-sentence, like he's lost his train of thought and has to force himself back on track. You're staring at him, Marissa whispers during a reading period. I'm not. I whisper back, but I totally am. It's weird, stop. I try to focus on my book, but my brain won't let go of what I saw yesterday. There's a story there, something happening in his life that none of us know about. And suddenly, his strictness feels less like cruelty and more like someone who's barely holding it together and can't afford to let things slip. Miss Ivy, I jump. Soren is standing next to my desk and I didn't even notice him approaching. Yes? You've been on the same page for 15 minutes, he says. And his voice is calm, but there's this knowing look in his eyes. Are you having trouble with the text? No, I say quickly. Sorry, just distracted. Focus, he says, but it's not harsh, just tired. He moves on to check on other students and I force myself to actually read, but I'm hyper aware of him now. The way he interacts with everyone, the professional distance he maintains. When class ends, I'm packing up my bag when I overhear him talking to another teacher in the hallway, Ms. Brooks, who teaches history. How's your sister doing? Ms. Brooks asks, and I freeze because that's a name, a person, someone connected to him. She's okay, Soren says, and his voice is quieter than usual. Better than last week. That's good. You look exhausted though. Are you taking care of yourself? I'm fine. Soren! I said I'm fine, he repeats, firmer this time, and Ms. Brooks backs off. Okay, but if you need anything, I know, thank you. I'm pretending to organize my folders, but I'm listening to every word. A sister. Someone he cares about. Someone who's apparently not doing well. I don't know why, but I pull out my phone and text Phoebe. Do you know anything about Mr. Soren's personal life? Her response comes a minute later. Why? He's boring. Just curious. IDK, but my mom works in the office and she said he's got custody of his sister or something. She's a student here. Junior, I think. My stomach twists. His sister, a teenager. Someone who's okay, but was apparently worse last week. Suddenly everything makes sense. The exhaustion, the phone call, the crying. He's not just a teacher. He's someone's guardian. Someone who's dealing with way more than any of us realized. In class the next day, Soren announces we're doing a personal narrative exercise. I want you to write about a moment that changed your perspective, he says. Something that made you see the world differently. 2 pages, due Friday. There's the usual groaning, but I'm actually interested. This is the first assignment that feels less like academic torture and more like something real. Can it be about anything? Colton asks. As long as it's honest, Soren says. I'm not looking for perfect prose. I'm looking for genuine reflection. That's new. He's never said anything like that before. We spend the rest of class brainstorming, and I find myself thinking about what I saw in his classroom, about how my entire perception of him shifted in that one moment. But I can't write about that. That would be invasive and weird. Instead, I start thinking about other moments. Other times my perspective changed. Can we share them? Marissa asks. Like read them out loud? Soren considers this. If you want to. But it's optional. These are personal narratives. Not everyone will feel comfortable sharing. Friday comes faster than I expect. And when I walk into English, there's this nervous energy in the room. A few people actually worked on this assignment, which is rare. Who wants to start? Soren asks, and surprisingly, Daphne raises her hand. She reads this beautiful piece about her grandmother teaching her to bake bread before she died, and how she thinks about her every time she smells yeast now. It's simple but emotional, and when she finishes, the room is quiet. Thank you for sharing that, Soren says, and his voice is softer than I've ever heard it. That's exactly the kind of honesty I was hoping for. A few more people volunteer. Colton reads something about his dad teaching him to fish. Phoebe shares a story about realizing her best friend was toxic. Then Soren looks around the room. Anyone else? I don't know what possesses me, but I raise my hand. Ivy? He says, nodding at me. I stand up, my paper shaking slightly, and I read the piece I wrote about the moment I realized my parents were struggling financially. How I'd always thought we were fine, comfortable, until I overheard them arguing about money late one night. How it made me see all their sacrifices differently. When I finish, I sit down quickly, my face hot. Thank you, Soren says. And when I look up at him, there's something different in his expression. Something like recognition. That took courage. Then, before anyone else can volunteer, he says something that shocks everyone. I'll share mine. The entire room goes silent. Soren doesn't have a paper. He's just standing there, looking at all of us, and for the first time since school started, his professional mask cracks. When I was 16, he says slowly, I was angry at the world. My parents were gone. I was in the foster system. I was failing classes because I didn't see the point. And I had this English teacher who refused to give up on me. He pauses, and I can see him choosing his words carefully. She was strict, demanding. She didn't cut me any slack, and I hated her for it. But she was the first person who expected something from me, who believed I was capable of more than survival. She gave me structure when everything else was chaos, and that structure saved my life. The room is so quiet I can hear my own heartbeat. I became a teacher because of her, Soren continues. Not to be anyone's friend, not to be popular, but to be the person who expects more, who doesn't let you give up on yourself, even when you hate me for it. He stops, and the vulnerability in his voice is overwhelming. So yes, I'm strict. I'm demanding, but it's because I know what you're capable of, and I refuse to let you settle for less. No one says anything, no one even moves. Then Marissa, of all people, raises her hand. Mr. Soren? Yes? Thank you for sharing that. He nods once. And just like that, the mask is back. But it's different now. Thinner. Like we can see through it to the person underneath. All right, he says, his voice returning to its usual teacher tone. Let's talk about your semester projects. I want to check in with each of you about your progress, but I can't focus on the project. I'm too busy processing what just happened. He wasn't always a teacher. He was a kid like us. A struggling kid who needed someone to believe in him. And now he's trying to be that person for us. My hand shoots up before I can stop myself. Mr. Soren? Yes, Ivy? Can I ask you something about what you just shared? He hesitates but nods. Go ahead. When you were 16 and angry at the world, what made you finally listen to that teacher? Like, what was the moment you stopped fighting her and started trusting her? The question hangs in the air. I can feel everyone watching, waiting. Soren leans against his desk, and I see him weighing how honest to be. She didn't give up, he says finally. Every day I pushed back, every assignment I didn't turn in, every time I was rude or dismissive, she just kept showing up, kept expecting more from me. And eventually I realized she wasn't the enemy. She was the only person who cared enough to be hard on me. But how did you realize that? I press. Like, what was the specific moment? He's quiet for a long beat. I got into a fight, almost got expelled. She went to bat for me with the administration, argued that I deserved another chance. And when I asked her why she bothered, she said, because I see who you could become, and I refuse to watch you throw it away. My throat tightens. That's really powerful. It was, he agrees. It was also terrifying, because suddenly I had to live up to what she saw in me. I couldn't hide behind anger anymore. Colton raises his hand slowly. Do you think we're all capable of that? Of becoming whoever we could be? Yes, Soren says without hesitation. Every single one of you. But it requires work, discomfort, growth, and most people don't want to do that work. So you're trying to make us uncomfortable on purpose? Marissa asks. I'm trying to push you past comfortable, Soren clarifies. There's a difference. Comfortable is easy. Comfortable doesn't challenge you, and if you're not being challenged, you're not growing. I'm writing all of this down in my notebook, not for the assignment, but because something is clicking in my brain, something about teaching, about what it means to actually help people grow. Is that why you became a teacher? Daphne asks quietly. To push people? I became a teacher, Soren says, because someone showed me that structure and high expectations aren't the opposite of compassion. Sometimes they're the deepest form of it. The bell rings, but nobody moves immediately. We're all sitting there, processing, rethinking everything we thought we knew about this class. As everyone packs up, I stay in my seat, still writing in my notebook. Marissa leans over. What are you doing? Just thinking, I say. About what? About teaching. About what makes someone a good teacher. She gives me this weird look. Since when do you care about teaching? Since about 5 minutes ago, I admit. After class, I can't help myself. I linger by my desk, pretending to organize my bag until everyone else has left. Was there something you needed? Soren asks, glancing up from his laptop. I stop, unsure how to say this. That was really brave, what you shared. He studies me for a moment. You shared something brave too. It's not the same, I say. You're the teacher. You didn't have to tell us any of that. Neither did you, he points out. But you chose to be vulnerable anyway. That matters. I don't know what to say to that, so I just nod. How are your college applications going? He asks, and the question catches me off guard. Fine, stressful, I don't know. That's normal, he says. Senior year is overwhelming, but you're handling it better than you think. It doesn't feel like it, I admit. It feels like I'm drowning and everyone else is swimming fine. Soren leans back in his chair. Everyone feels that way. They're just better at hiding it. There's something about the way he says it, like he knows from experience, that makes me wonder if he's talking about more than just high school. Can I ask you something? I say before I can stop myself. You can ask, I might not answer. Why did you become a teacher here? At this school specifically? He's quiet for a moment, considering whether to answer. Then, my sister goes here. She needed stability. I needed to be close. The sister, the one Ms. Brooks mentioned. That must be hard, I say carefully, being her guardian and her teacher's colleague. It is, he admits, but it's what she needs, what we both need. I want to ask more about what happened to their parents, about why his sister was struggling, about everything, but I can tell the door is closing. He's shared enough. Thank you for telling me, I say instead, and for what you said in class. Get to your next period, he says, but it's not cold, just redirecting. I leave, but everything feels different now. When I get home that night, I can't stop thinking about the conversation, about what Soren said about structure and compassion, about pushing people to grow. I open my laptop and start Googling education programs, teaching certifications, what it takes to become a high school English teacher. It's crazy. I've spent the last 3 years thinking I wanted to go into marketing or communications or something corporate and practical. But sitting in that classroom today, watching Soren be honest about why he teaches, something shifted. What if I could be that person for someone? What if I could be the teacher who refuses to give up on a struggling kid? My mom knocks on my door. Dinner's ready, honey. Be right there. I call back, but I'm still staring at my screen. Northwestern has an excellent education program. So does Michigan. And there's this whole world of teaching philosophy I never knew existed. I bookmark a few pages and head downstairs, but my mind is racing. The next week in English, we're discussing the role of education in society, and I'm completely locked in. What's the purpose of school? Soren asks, and immediately hands go up. To prepare us for college, someone says. To get a job, Colton offers. To learn how to think, Daphne suggests quietly. Soren nods at each answer. All valid. But I'd argue the deepest purpose of education is transformation. To change who you are. To give you tools to become who you could be. But what if we don't want to be transformed? Marissa asks. What if we're fine the way we are? Then you're limiting yourself, Soren says simply. And that's your choice. But it's not mine to enable. I raise my hand. So you think teachers should push students even if students resist? I think teachers should challenge students, he corrects. There's a difference between pushing and challenging. Pushing is about my agenda. Challenging is about your growth. How do you know the difference? I ask. He looks right at me. Intent. If I'm challenging you to prove something to myself, that's pushing. If I'm challenging you because I genuinely believe you can rise to it, that's different. But what about students who can't rise to it? Colton asks. What if the challenge is too hard? Then we adjust, Soren says. Challenge doesn't mean impossible. It means just beyond your current reach. That's where growth happens. I'm writing everything down, my hand cramping, and Soren notices. Ivy, you're transcribing this like it's a lecture. Sorry, I say quickly. I'm just really interested in this. In what specifically? In teaching. In what makes teaching effective. Something crosses his face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Thinking about becoming a teacher? Maybe, I admit, and the whole class turns to look at me. I don't know. I'm considering it. You'd be good at it, he says, and the confidence in his voice catches me off guard. You're reflective, empathetic. You think critically about systems and structures. Those are essential qualities. My face goes hot. Thanks. But it's also the hardest job you'll ever have, he continues. If you're doing it right, you'll question yourself constantly. Wonder if you're reaching students. Worry about the ones who slip through the cracks. Take home their struggles and their pain. Is that why you look so exhausted all the time? Colton asks, and immediately looks like he regrets it. But Soren just laughs. This tired, genuine sound. Yeah, that's exactly why. Do you ever regret it? I ask quietly. Every day, he says. And then I have a moment like this, where a student tells me they're thinking about teaching, and I remember why I started. The bell rings, but I don't move. Ivy? Soren says as everyone files out. Can you stay for a minute? My heart pounds as the room empties. Did I say something wrong? If you're serious about teaching, he says once we're alone, I want to give you some advice. Okay. Don't do it for the reward. You won't get thanked often. Students will hate you sometimes. Parents will question you. Administration will exhaust you. Then why do it? I ask. Because sometimes, he says, and his voice gets softer, you'll see a student finally understand something they've been struggling with, or you'll read an essay that's so honest it breaks your heart, or you'll get an email years later from someone saying you changed their life, and those moments, they make everything else worth it. I'm gripping my bag so tight my knuckles are white. Did that happen to you? Did you ever contact that teacher who helped you? I tried, he says. She passed away before I could tell her what she meant to me. I'm so sorry. Me too. That's why I'm telling you this now. If you become a teacher, you might never know your impact. You have to be okay teaching into the void sometimes, trusting that you're making a difference even when you can't see it. That sounds lonely, I say. It is, he admits, but it's also purpose. And purpose is worth loneliness. I swallow hard. Can I ask you something else? Always. Do you ever feel like you're failing, like you're not reaching us? His expression shifts. Constantly. Especially this semester. I know you all think I'm too strict, too cold, and maybe I am, but I don't know how else to be. You're not cold, I say quickly. You're just guarded. But after today, after what you shared, I get it. You're protecting yourself and protecting you, he says. If I let myself care too much about every student's struggle, I won't be able to function. I have to maintain boundaries. But you do care, I point out. I can tell, even when you're being strict. Yes, he says quietly, I care more than I should. That night, I'm supposed to be working on college essays, but instead I'm researching teacher training programs, reading articles about education philosophy, watching TED Talks about transformative teaching. My mom notices, what's gotten into you? I think I want to be a teacher, I say, and hearing the words out loud makes them real. Really? Since when? Since I had a teacher who made me understand what teaching actually is. She sits on my bed. Tell me about this teacher. So I do. I tell her about Soren, about how I thought he was cold and robotic, but he's actually carrying so much weight, about how he shared his story in class and it changed everything, about how he's making me think differently about what it means to help people. He sounds remarkable, my mom says. He is. And I want to be like that. I want to be the teacher who doesn't give up on struggling kids, who sees potential even when they can't see it themselves. That's beautiful, honey. But you know teaching is hard, right? The pay isn't great. The hours are long. I know, but I think it's worth it. She smiles and kisses my forehead. Then I'm proud of you for thinking about purpose instead of just practicality. After she leaves, I pull up Northwestern's website and look at their School of Education. They have a program that combines English literature with secondary education. It's perfect. I'm actually considering changing my entire application strategy. Instead of marking undecided or communications, I could apply as an education major. It's terrifying, but it also feels right. The following week, I'm in the library working on my semester project when I see Soren sitting at a far table with a teenage girl who must be his sister. She's crying, and he's talking to her in this low, patient voice, his hand on her shoulder. I can't hear what they're saying, but I watch the way he's completely focused on her. No phone, no distractions, just this intense, caring attention that I've never seen from him in class. She's young, probably 16, with the same dark hair and intense eyes. But where Soren is controlled and composed, she's visibly falling apart. I see him pull out his phone and show her something. She nods, wipes her eyes, and says something that makes his whole body tense. He responds, and I can see his jaw working, like he's choosing his words very carefully. Marissa slides into the seat next to me. That's his sister. Elise, I think? She's kind of a mess, apparently. Got caught skipping last week. Stop, I say firmly. What? Don't gossip about her. You don't know what she's dealing with. Marissa looks taken aback. Okay, geez, I was just saying. Well, don't. She's clearly struggling, and Soren's clearly trying to help. That's nobody's business but theirs. I watch them stand up, and Soren keeps his hand on her shoulder as they walk toward the exit. The protective way he's guiding her makes my chest ache. No wonder he's exhausted. He's not just teaching a full course load. He's essentially parenting a teenager who's dealing with something big. You're really defensive of him lately, Marissa observes. Because he deserves defending, I say. He's a good teacher, and we've all been judging him without knowing anything about his life. Since when do you care this much? Since I realized I was completely wrong about him. I'm having a complete breakdown in the bathroom. I have a college interview in 30 minutes, Northwestern, my dream school, and I'm hyperventilating, staring at myself in the mirror, convinced I'm going to fail. My interview outfit suddenly looks wrong. My talking points sound stupid. My entire brain has decided to shut down. And the worst part? I can't stop thinking about how if I blow this interview, I won't get into the education program, and I won't become the teacher I'm now convinced I'm supposed to be. Breathe, I tell myself, but I can't. My chest is too tight. Someone knocks on the bathroom door. Ivy, you in there? It's Marissa's voice, but when I open the door, she's not alone. Soren is standing there too, and the sight of him makes everything worse because now my teacher is seeing me have a panic attack. I'm fine, I gasp, but it's so obviously a lie. You're not fine, Soren says calmly. You're having a panic attack. I can't. I have an interview. I know, Ms. Brooks told me. That's why I'm here. He glances at Marissa. Can you give us a minute? Marissa hesitates, then nods and slips away. Soren steps into the bathroom, which is probably against some rule, but he doesn't seem to care, and closes the door most of the way, leaving it cracked for propriety. Sit, he says, pointing to the counter. I do, because I don't have the energy to argue. Breathe with me, he says, and he starts this slow, exaggerated breathing pattern. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. I try to copy him, but my breath keeps catching. Again, he says patiently. You're okay. You're just scared. Fear isn't danger. We do the breathing exercise 3 more times, and slowly, gradually, my chest starts to loosen. Better? He asks. I nod, embarrassed. Sorry. Don't apologize. Do you know how many panic attacks I had during my college interviews? I look up at him surprised. You? Me, he confirms. I threw up before my interview at the state school. Completely bombed my Northwestern interview, actually. You applied to Northwestern? Got rejected, he says with this small, wry smile. Turns out you can survive rejection and still have a good life, still become a teacher, still make a difference. That helps somehow. Knowing he's been here, knowing he understands. What if I mess this up, I whisper. Then you mess it up, he says simply, and you'll be okay anyway. But Ivy, you're not going to mess it up. You're smart. You're articulate. You've overcome harder things than a conversation with an admissions officer. How do you know? Because you shared that narrative in class, he says. You wrote about realizing your parents were struggling. That takes emotional intelligence, self-awareness, the ability to think beyond yourself. Those are the things interviewers care about. I want to believe him. I'm trying to believe him. Here's what you're going to do, Soren continues. You're going to walk into that interview and remember that they need good students as much as you need a good school. You're not begging for acceptance. You're showing them what you bring to their campus. What do I bring? I ask, genuinely uncertain. He looks me right in the eyes. Empathy, critical thinking, curiosity about systems and structures, and most importantly, the ability to be wrong, recognize it, and grow from it. That's rare, Ivy. That's valuable. I want to study education, I blurt out. I'm going to tell them that. I want to be a teacher. His eyebrows go up. When did you decide this? After you shared your story. After I started watching you teach. You made me realize that teaching isn't about giving information. It's about transformation. And I want to do that. Something shifts in his expression, this mix of pride and surprise and something else I can't quite name. Then you tell them that, he says firmly. You tell them you want to be a teacher because you finally understand what teaching really means. You tell them about the teacher who challenged your assumptions, who made you think differently about growth and structure and compassion. Can I tell them about you? If it's honest, yes. If it helps you articulate your purpose, absolutely. My breathing is almost normal now. My heart is still racing, but it's more from excitement than panic. You've got this, he says. Now go prove me right. The interview goes better than I expected. Not perfect, but good. Real. I talk about my family, my love for literature. And when they ask why I want to study education, I'm honest. I had a teacher this year who completely changed how I understand teaching, I say. He's strict and demanding, and at first I thought he didn't care about us. But then I realized his strictness came from believing we were capable of more than we thought we were. He gave me structure when I was drowning in anxiety. He pushed me to think critically when I wanted to coast. And he showed me that the best teachers aren't the ones who make things easy. They're the ones who make us better. The interviewer is nodding, taking notes. I want to be that teacher, I continue. The one who doesn't give up on struggling students, who sees their potential before they see it themselves, who understands that structure and high expectations are forms of compassion. That's a very mature perspective for a high school senior, the interviewer says. I learned it from someone who lived it, I reply. When I walk out, Soren is waiting in the parking lot, leaning against his car. How'd it go? He asks. Good, I think. Maybe even really good. I told them I want to study education. His smile is genuine. How did that feel? Terrifying and right, both at the same time. That's how you know it's real, he says. Purpose is always a little scary. Thank you, I say. And I mean it with everything I have. For earlier, for helping me calm down, for making me believe I could do this. You did it, he corrects. I just reminded you of what was already there. Mr. Soren? Yes? Why do you care so much about me specifically? He's quiet for a long moment. Because you remind me of myself at your age. Capable but doubting it. Smart but scared. And I remember what it felt like when someone finally saw past my defenses to the person I could become. You're doing that for me, I say softly. No, I'm just holding up a mirror. You're the one doing the work. That night, I rewrite my Northwestern essay completely. Instead of some generic piece about overcoming challenges, I write about perception, about misjudgment, about a teacher I thought was cold who turned out to be one of the most caring people I'd ever met. I write about structure as compassion, about high expectations as belief, about how the teachers who push us the hardest are often the ones who change us most. And I write about purpose, about discovering that I want to be a teacher not in spite of how hard it is, but because of it. When I finish at 2 in the morning, I read it over and cry a little because it's the most honest thing I've ever written. The semester project presentations are starting, and I'm weirdly excited instead of anxious. Daphne goes first, analyzing To Kill a Mockingbird through a racial justice lens. She's nervous but thorough, and Soren asks her thoughtful questions that push her analysis deeper. Colton presents on Lord of the Flies, and it's exactly as surface level as expected. Soren asks him 3 follow-up questions that Colton can't answer, and you can feel the tension. This is what I mean about going deeper, Soren says, not unkindly. You've summarized the plot and mentioned some themes, but you haven't analyzed the sociological implications. Why does Golding's vision of human nature matter? What does it say about civilization and order? Colton looks miserable. I don't know. That's the problem. You chose the easy route instead of the challenging one, and now you're stuck with a presentation that doesn't reflect your actual capabilities. It's harsh but fair, and I can see Colton processing it. Then it's my turn. I stand at the front of the class with my slides and my notes, and suddenly I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I talk about The Catcher in the Rye and trauma, about how the entire novel is a cry for help disguised as teenage rebellion, about how Holden is looking for authenticity in a world that feels fake, and how that search is really about trying to process grief without the tools to do it. Holden needs structure, I say, and I can feel myself getting passionate. He needs someone to see past his anger to the pain underneath. He needs someone who won't give up on him, even when he's pushing everyone away. He needs what all struggling teenagers need, an adult who believes they're capable of more than survival. I see Soren lean forward slightly, fully engaged. But the tragedy of the novel, I continue, is that Holden never finds that person. He ends up institutionalized, still struggling, still lost. And Salinger leaves us with this question. What would have happened if someone had given Holden structure instead of freedom? If someone had challenged him instead of indulging him? If someone had believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself? I pull up my final slide. I think the answer is that Holden could have transformed. That's what structure does. It creates the conditions for transformation. And that's what the best teachers do. They provide structure not as punishment, but as possibility. When I finish, the room is silent for a beat. Then Soren starts clapping and everyone else joins in. Excellent analysis, he says, and I can hear the pride in his voice. You connected the text to larger questions about education and growth. You demonstrated critical thinking and original interpretation. That was exactly what this assignment was designed to produce. I sit down, my heart racing, and Marissa leans over to whisper, that was incredible. But I'm not thinking about the grade or the applause. I'm thinking about the look on Soren's face, the way he understood exactly what I was really saying. After class, he asked me to stay behind. I wanted to talk to you about your project, he says once everyone's gone. Was something wrong with it? I ask, even though I know it was good. The opposite. It was exceptional. I'm submitting it to the district's academic journal, if you're comfortable with that. Really? Really, but more than that, he pauses, choosing his words. Thank you. For what? For getting it. For understanding what I've been trying to do all semester. That presentation wasn't just about Holden. It was about teaching, about what you're learning about education. You inspired it, I admit. Everything you said about structure and expectations and transformation, it helped me see The Catcher in the Rye differently, helped me see everything differently. You did that work yourself, he says. I just provided the framework. That's what teachers do, right? Provide frameworks? He smiles. The good ones, yes. I hesitate, then ask something I've been wondering. Do you ever feel like you're getting through to us? Like, do you see the impact you're having? His expression shifts. Rarely. Most days I leave school wondering if I'm doing more harm than good, if my strictness is actually helpful or just alienating. You're getting through, I say firmly. To me, at least. You've changed how I think about everything. Education, growth, purpose, all of it. Ivy. His voice is softer now. Can I tell you something? Always. You're going to be an incredible teacher. Better than me, probably. Because you already understand the thing it took me years to learn. That teaching is about connection, not just content. My eyes burn. You connect with us, you just do it differently. Maybe. But watching you present today, seeing your passion for this idea of transformative education, that gave me hope. Hope that the next generation of teachers will be better at this than we are. I learned it from you, I point out. No. You learned it from paying attention, from being willing to change your mind, from having the emotional intelligence to see past surfaces. Those are gifts, Ivy. Don't underestimate them. The rest of the semester fly by in a blur of final projects and college application updates. I get an email from Northwestern. My hands shake as I open it. Congratulations! We are pleased to offer you admission to Northwestern University's class of 2029. I scream. Literally scream. My mom comes running, and when I show her the email, she starts crying happy tears. I'm so proud of you, honey. I got in. I actually got in. What does this mean for your education plans? She asks. It means I can study to be a teacher. It means everything. The first person I want to tell after my parents is Soren. I know it's Saturday, but I also know he's probably at school working because he's always at school working. So I drive over, and sure enough, his car is in the parking lot. I find him in his classroom grading papers, and I knock on the doorframe. He looks up, startled. Ivy, what are you doing here on a Saturday? I got in, I say breathlessly. Northwestern, I got in. His entire face transforms. He stands up, smiling this huge, genuine smile I've maybe seen twice all semester. Ivy, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you, I say. The interview, the essays, the confidence, you gave me all of that. No, he says firmly, coming around his desk. You had all of that already. I just helped you see it. Can I hug you? I blurt out. Is that weird? That's probably weird. He laughs. It's not weird. Come here. The hug is brief and professional, but it means everything. Thank you, I say when we step back, for believing in me, for pushing me, for being exactly the teacher I needed, even when I didn't realize I needed it. Thank you, he says, and his voice is thick with emotion, for reminding me why I became a teacher in the first place, for seeing past my defenses, for giving me a chance. You're going to change so many lives, I tell him. I hope you know that. I'm trying. Some days are harder than others, but you keep showing up, I point out. That's what matters. He nods, and I see him blinking rapidly like he's fighting tears. Ivy, can I ask you something? Of course. When you become a teacher, and you will, don't forget this feeling, this moment of connection, this sense of purpose. Teaching will try to beat it out of you. The bureaucracy, the exhaustion, the students who don't care, the parents who blame you, all of it will make you want to quit. But hold on to this. Hold on to the reason you're doing it. I will. I promise. I'll remember you. What you taught me. How you made me better by expecting more. I'll remember you too, he says quietly, as the student who proved that everything I'm trying to do actually matters. Winter break comes and goes, and when we return for the spring semester, I'm in Soren's AP Literature class. A different course, same teacher, but everything feels different now. The first day back, Soren doesn't start with rules or syllabi. Instead, he asks us a question. What do you hope to become in the next 6 months? People shift uncomfortably. We're not used to this kind of openness from him. I don't mean career-wise, he clarifies. I mean as a person. What quality do you want to develop? What fear do you want to face? What growth do you want to experience? I raise my hand. I want to learn how to help people the way you've helped me. I want to understand what makes transformative teaching actually work. Several people turn to look at me, but I keep my eyes on Soren. That's ambitious, he says. What's your plan? I thought, maybe I could observe you, like really pay attention to your methodology, and maybe we could talk about it sometimes. I'm expecting him to shut this down, to say it's inappropriate or too personal or against school policy. Instead, he says, I'd be honored, but you have to promise me something. What? You have to be honest with me about what you see, the good and the bad. If I'm doing something that isn't working, I want to know. Deal? Deal. Over the next few months, I become a student of teaching. I watch how Soren structures discussions, how he asks questions that push without crushing, how he balances support with challenge, how he maintains boundaries while still showing he cares. I notice things I never saw before. The way he learns every student's name by the end of the first week, even in classes of 30, how he makes time for anyone who stays after class, no matter how exhausted he is. The careful way he gives feedback, always pointing out strengths before addressing weaknesses, how he adapts his approach for different students, pushing harder on those who can handle it, being gentler with those who are fragile. One day in late February, I stay after class to discuss what I've been observing. You do this thing, I tell him, where you validate students' feelings even when you're disagreeing with their ideas. Like yesterday, when Colton said the ending of The Great Gatsby was unsatisfying, you said, I understand that frustration before you challenged his interpretation. Soren looked surprised. I didn't realize I did that. You do it constantly. It makes people feel heard even when you're pushing them to think differently. That's actually a really helpful observation, he says, pulling out a notebook. Do you mind if I write that down? You're taking notes on your own teaching? I'm always trying to get better, he says, and you're giving me insight I don't usually have access to. We start meeting once a week after school, unofficial mentoring sessions where we talk about education philosophy, teaching strategies, and what I'm learning from watching him. How do you decide when to be strict versus when to be flexible? I ask during one session. Consistency, he says immediately. The rules have to be consistent, but within that structure, there's room for flexibility on individual circumstances. If a student needs an extension because of a legitimate crisis, that's different from poor planning. But how do you know which is which? You ask, you listen, you pay attention to patterns, and you accept that sometimes you'll get it wrong. That sounds exhausting. It is, he admits, but it's also the only way to be fair. I'm writing all of this down, building this mental framework for the kind of teacher I want to become. Can I ask you something personal? I venture one day. You can ask. How are things with your sister? Is she doing better? He's quiet for a moment. She is actually. Therapy is helping. And I think having structure, knowing I'm here, that I'm not going anywhere, that's helping too. Structure as stability, I say. Exactly. She was in chaos for so long. Now she has routine, expectations, someone who shows up consistently. It's making a difference. That's beautiful, I say. You're literally living what you teach, or teaching what I had to learn to survive, he says with a slight smile. Soren assigns us a major project. Design a unit plan for a class we'd want to teach. Pretend you're the teacher, he says. Pick a topic, choose texts, create assignments, plan discussions. Show me how you'd approach transformative education. I'm immediately excited. This is everything I've been thinking about for months. I spend weeks developing a unit on identity and transformation through literature. I pick texts that explore change, stories about people who are forced to see themselves differently, to grow beyond who they thought they were. For my presentation, I walk the class through my entire vision. The goal, I explain, isn't just to analyze these texts. It's to get students thinking about their own capacity for transformation. Each assignment would ask them to reflect on their own growth. Each discussion would push them to challenge their assumptions about identity being fixed versus fluid. Soren is watching me with this intense focus, and I can tell he's proud. This is sophisticated work, he says when I finish. You're thinking like an educator, not just a student. The through line is clear, the texts are well chosen, and the assignments build on each other. I learn from the best, I say, and several people in class groan at how obvious it is that I'm talking about him. But he just smiles. You learn from paying attention. After class, he asked me to stay behind. I want to show you something, he says, pulling up his computer. It's an email to the principal, recommending me for a teaching internship program the district runs for high school seniors interested in education. It's competitive, he explains. Only 3 spots. But if you get in, you'd spend your final quarter working with me and other teachers, learning classroom management, designing lessons, working with students. You recommended me? Of course I did. You're ready for this. More ready than most education majors I've met. I feel tears prickling. Thank you, this means everything. You've earned it, Ivy. Now go prove me right, again. I get the internship. It's harder than I imagined. Classroom management is complex. Designing lessons that work for different learning styles is challenging. Giving effective feedback is an art form, but it's also the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. I watch Soren de-escalate a heated argument between 2 students with such calm skill that they both end up apologizing within minutes. I see him stay late to help a struggling student who's too proud to ask for help during class. I observe the way he structures his time, his classroom, his relationships, everything designed to maximize learning while maintaining his own sanity. One day, he lets me teach a 20-minute segment on metaphor and poetry. I'm nervous, but I remember everything I've learned from watching him. Structure, clear expectations, questions that push thinking, validation before challenge. It goes well, not perfectly, but well. Afterward, Soren gives me feedback that's specific and helpful and encouraging. You're a natural, he says. The way you built on students' answers, how you redirected without shutting people down, that's instinct. You can't fully teach that. I learned it from watching you. No, you internalized it because you have the capacity for it. There's a difference. By mid-May, I'm teaching full class periods multiple times a week. I'm grading assignments. I'm designing activities. I'm becoming a teacher. And I love it, even when it's hard, even when students don't listen, even when I mess up a lesson and have to adapt on the fly. I love it because I can see the impact. The moment a student understands something they were struggling with, the smile when someone feels heard, the growth that that happens when you provide the right structure at the right time. On the final day of classes, Soren asks his AP Lit students to write a reflection on what we learned this year. Not about literature, but about ourselves. I write about transformation, about misjudgment and growth, about how I came into his class thinking he was the worst teacher and left knowing he was the best. I write about discovering my purpose, about learning that teaching is about so much more than content. It's about connection, structure, belief, and refusing to let people settle for less than they're capable of. I write about gratitude for a teacher who was strict enough to push me, vulnerable enough to be human, and consistent enough to earn my complete respect. When I hand it in, Soren reads it right there. I watch his expression change as he goes through it. Surprise, emotion, something that might be pride or gratitude or both. Ivy, he says, and his voice is rough. This is thank you. I meant every word. I know. That's what makes it so powerful. I have something else for you, I say, pulling an envelope from my bag. Don't open it now. Wait until after school. He takes it curious but respectful. Inside is a letter I've been writing for weeks. A complete, honest accounting of everything he taught me, about structure and compassion, about high expectations as a form of love, about transformation as the goal of education. And at the end I've written, you told us on the first day of AP English that you weren't here to be our friend, that you were here to push us to be better. At the time I thought that was cruel. Now I understand it's the deepest form of teaching. Thank you for refusing to let me coast. Thank you for believing I was capable of more than I believed myself. Thank you for being exactly who I needed you to be, even when I didn't realize I needed it. I'm going to be a teacher because of you. And I'm going to spend my career trying to be for my students what you've been for me, someone who expects more, challenges assumptions, and refuses to give up. With profound respect and gratitude, Ivy. Graduation is beautiful and overwhelming and bittersweet. When they call my name and I walk across the stage, I look for my parents in the crowd, but I also look for Soren, sitting with the faculty, and when our eyes meet, he nods. Just once. Just this small acknowledgement of everything we've been through. That's all I need. At the reception afterward, I find him standing alone near the punch table, and I walk over. Congratulations, he says. You did it. We did it, I correct. I wouldn't be here, wouldn't be going to Northwestern to study education without you. Ivy! No, let me say this, I interrupt gently. At the beginning of the year, I thought you were cold and uncaring. I thought you didn't see us as people. I was so wrong. You saw me more clearly than I saw myself. You pushed me to grow when I wanted to stay comfortable. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and you changed my entire life. His eyes are bright. You changed mine too. How? You reminded me that this work matters, that showing up exhausted and overwhelmed and barely holding it together is still worth it if you're reaching even one student. You gave me hope that the next generation of teachers will understand what teaching really means. We're both crying a little now, not caring who sees. I'm going to miss you, I admit. I'm going to miss you too. But I'll be watching your career, cheering you on, knowing that you're out there doing this work. Can I stay in touch? Email you sometimes? Tell you how it's going? Please do, he says. I want to know everything. Your classes, your students, your struggles, your victories, all of it. Deal. My parents are waving at me, time for photos, but I turn back to Soren one more time. Thank you, I say, for everything, for being the teacher who changed everything. Thank you, he says, for being the student who made it all worthwhile. That night, lying in bed in my cap and gown, I think about the journey, from thinking Soren was the worst teacher I'd ever had to knowing he's the best, from wanting to coast through senior year to discovering my life's purpose, from misjudging someone completely to earning genuine respect through understanding. I pull out my phone and text him one last message. I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to be the kind of teacher you showed me how to be. Structure with compassion, challenge with belief, high expectations as love. Thank you for teaching me what transformative education actually looks like. His response comes a few minutes later. You already make me proud. Now go transform some lives. The world needs teachers like you. And remember, it's okay to be strict. It's okay to push. It's okay to expect more. That's not cruelty. That's care. Go show them what real teaching looks like. I save the message. Because some lessons are too important to forget. And some teachers change everything. Not by being easy, not by being liked, but by being exactly what we need exactly when we need it. By refusing to let us settle. By believing in our potential before we see it ourselves. By showing up day after day, exhausted and overwhelmed, and still expecting more because they know we're capable of it. That's what Soren did for me. And that's what I'm going to spend my life doing for others. Structure as compassion. High expectations as belief. Teaching as transformation. I fall asleep smiling, ready for whatever comes next, knowing that I finally understand what it means to truly respect someone, not because they made things easy, but because they made me better.